Let's talk about picking your protagonist or determining who your protagonist is going to be. Hi, I'm Hananya Leclerc. I am a multi-genre writer who shares tips and tricks and talks about her life. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. So what is a protagonist? A protagonist is basically the hero of your story and the person that is going to kind of drive this story. It's going to happen to this person, with this person, surrounding this person. A lot is going to do with this protagonist. So if you're struggling determining who your protagonist is going to be, then there's going to be some questions that you can ask yourself to try and determine who is the best for the main character slash protagonist, who has kind of the most at stake in this book. So is there anyone that is really screaming at you of pick me, then you might want to pick that one. Also think about who has the goal of the story. So who is going to kind of have the biggest transformation? Who is the story about? So if you're writing about specific things or a specific person, then that is probably going to be your protagonist. If you're writing, for example, a story about bullying, as I've kind of said when I was brainstorming, then your character can be kind of someone that is bullied. But think about kind of who that main character is and who the protagonist is, and see kind of if they will have the biggest change in the story, if they will have the biggest transformation, because that is usually how you can determine if that is the protagonist or not. So another good way of picking your protagonist and determining who your protagonist is to kind of think about who people relate to. So who can my readers, so people that are hopefully at some point going to read your book, really relate to on character level. So for example, is the problem that your character has something that more people can relate to, in a sense that it might be something recognizable to people that might resonate with others. For example, if we go back to the bullying, if for example the problem that we're facing is that we're being bullied and we don't have kind of the ability to stand up for ourselves or something like that, that can be something that relates to a lot of people, because a lot of people are bullied. Even if it's not in a younger life, they might experience bullying in like their day job or something. So I think that can be something that people relate to a lot, and that is going to resonate with more people. So think about kind of what the problem is that your character is struggling with, and if that is something that other people can relate to. So in the case of my story, my protagonist is going to be the female character that I've kind of come up with in my head. The female character is going to go through the biggest change in my story, and it's going to affect her the most, even though it's also going to affect the other characters in my book. She is going to make like the biggest transformation in this story. So she is going to be the protagonist that I'm going to go with, even though I'm thinking of maybe writing this in multiple POV. That is going to be kind of the person that is the overarching protagonist of what is going to happen to this person, is kind of what determines the story and what really affects the story the most. So it's her transformation that's going to be the biggest arc, and that is kind of how I determined that that is going to be the protagonist. Now, if you're unsure of who your protagonist is and you're still struggling a little bit, just try and think about who is the person with the goal in the story, who is the person that has a problem that they're facing, who is most like my readers, who is going through the biggest transformation in the story, and kind of try and answer those questions to see who is going to be the person that stands out the most with these questions. And if you're still struggling, try and like think about your characters, look at them individually and kind of see, okay, well, if other people weren't here, would the story still be the same? So if you're trying to take out kind of certain people, would the overarching kind of story or theme still be the same? And try eliminating some people to see, okay, well, if I take out this character, how would that affect the story? Like, sure, it will affect the story, but will the overarching thing still be the same? Then that person is not the protagonist. If you, for example, take out the antagonist, then that might also obviously change your story. But if you kind of think about, okay, well, who is going to go through this transformation if I take out certain people? Is the overarching transformation still the same, or is this person the person that's going to go through the overarching transformation? If we go off of an example in the Save the Cat Writes a Novel book, it basically says, for example, there's a reason that not Edward, the vampire, but Bella, the human, is the protagonist in Twilight, just because we as people can relate to Bella. So she is the protagonist of Twilight so that we can kind of have the same relation or something in that sense. And then, for example, Harry Potter is the main character in that series because he comes from a muggle world. He's gonna go into the wizarding world. He's gonna have the biggest transformation. He's gonna get used to not being with a family that hates him, and he's also gonna get used to becoming a wizard, like learning all about that. So he's gonna go through the biggest transformation, and also because he is kind of the chosen one, right? So he's gonna have the biggest arc, even though obviously the other characters are still important and the story wouldn't be the same if we take out everyone, but he's still like the main protagonist if we look at who is kind of direct opposite of the antagonist, which is Voldemort in this case. And that might lead us to the next video, which is going to be all about the antagonist. So I hope that this video has helped you to think about who your protagonist is, and then hopefully in the next video we're going to figure out the antagonist, which is going to be linked right here, where we're going to go over who is the opposite or stands directly against your protagonist.